So Jim, tell me about Land Lab. What is Land Lab and how did it get started?
So Land Lab is a conservation restoration project that was started by students about 7 years ago and in my AP environmental science class. And their goal was to give back to the environment, increase biodiversity, to create an area where education could really happen on the ground. And more students getting involved, more and more partners. And now we have about 100 acres of prairies and wetlands and forests for the community and the students to go out and kind of engage in outdoors.
So if I'm understanding right, this is land that is directly adjacent to the school and was cornfield?
Yeah, so when it first started out, we had a piece of land that we purchased, and put a school on, and then we had some additional land out there in case we wanted to build another school. So all total in front of the building and behind the building, there was about 125 acres that was just being leased out to a tenant farmer for corn and soybeans. And when the students started working on this project, that seemed like a likely place to start a restoration project because they thought that was an area that we could definitely impact the biodiversity.
What's your advice to a teacher who would like to do something like this?
So our district has gotten heavily involved in what is called project-based learning. And I've become just a huge believer in that over the years now. This project and all the time that it consumes is far and above the best thing I've ever done. And I think, when we really look at what we want to accomplish in education, we want kids who not just, learn content, but understand the processes of thinking, to understand the processes of problem solving, life-changing to some degree. They had an opportunity to do something. And when I first started teaching this class on environmental science, it can be overwhelming. The fact that they've been able to engage in solutions has made all the difference in the world for these kids. They're optimistic about their futures. We've got things we got to do, but they feel that they can actually do them. They feel like they can have some impact on things moving forward. And if we can give that to kids, we've given them everything.
Like so much land these days is used for development. Like if there's any available space, it seems like our first priority is to figure out how can we make money off of that? How can we develop it, build on it, whatever it might be. And so to see land like that right outside of a school be set aside for the environment, for the natural world, that to me is really meaningful. Where somebody might drive by and just see a field full of weeds, I want them to see the animals and the birds and the things that are using that field and those marshes and those ponds. It's a special place that I want to help connect the community to.
So if you were explaining what the Land Lab was to someone who didn't know what it was, how would you explain it? Like, what is the Land Lab?
I describe it as a great place to learn, a great place to have for a school, a great place to just interact with a lot of things that you don't get at regular schools.
Something to let you know, to learn about animals and to respect nature.
And expand our learning and be outside to learn.
One of the original objectives of the Land Lab was to increase biodiversity. And in fact, that was probably the number one objective when this all started. We've done that to a very high degree.
Yeah, so the soras are, they're just kind of almost like little chicken-like birds that live in wetlands. And if I'm patient enough and quiet enough, I could probably get some pictures of them. Some pretty cool photos of them. At the Land Lab, I've seen 143 species. Total on the page, there's been 144 identified. So there's one that someone has seen that I haven't. I don't know which one it is, but yeah, we're up over 140 species just there at the Land Lab.
We've created something that is a true treasure and has really increased biodiversity. Not just birds. I mean, we've got mink now in the Land Lab, which is a really unique species. And not only unique from the sense that they're there, but from the educational opportunities that come from that, the research opportunities. We have one of the only pictures. There's been two since 1943 of a mink actually consuming a bullfrog as a food source, and we have one of those pictures taken in our Land Lab.
And I bet there was 40 people there planting trees. It was whole families. It was parents, it was their kids, and a lot of the parents were still in their business clothes, which just blew my mind. They were out there wanting to help plant those trees, and knowing that they didn't have a lot of time. So to have them out there was truly inspiring to me.
The idea of the burn is it kind of sets back the invasive species, and the prairie plants that have kind of evolved to deal with fire recover much faster from the fire than the invasive plants do, and as a result you give those a boost and you keep your invasives down. And where we're able to burn, we don't have a problem with invasive species at all. The fact that we are where we are with the Land Lab, I think, is a testament to the generation that I teach. I've been an environmentalist all my life. I've been a pessimist for most of it. The Land Lab has made me an optimist. I believe that we can solve the problems we face, and I believe that it's this generation that will do that. Personally, as a teacher, it is the single greatest educational project I've ever been involved in. I think the true importance of the project is something else that I believe very strongly in the ability of this generation to make a difference, to make a change.
We planted like 200 trees out there, and it would be really cool because over the years they're going to grow, and then maybe when my brother or sister is in that grade, they're going to be huge. So that'd be really cool to know that we planted those and that they've worked so well.
It's almost like our Marco and Granville.
Totally.
Rod and Mason are here to tell us a little bit about an amazing place called the Land Lab. And they also made this, along with some other students, made this film about the lab. But I want to start off just by asking you guys what you're up to now. What are you doing these days, Rod?
Well, I'm a third year at The Ohio State University. I'm living off campus with some friends right now while I study landscape architecture.
Oh, cool. How about you, Mason?
I'm currently a student at the University of Cincinnati, where I study international affairs and Spanish.
So both of you attended Granville High School, and as part of that, you were involved with the Land Lab. Tell me about what is Land Lab? So
the Land Lab was originally a project that came out of a bunch of students who were taking the AP Environmental Science class at the high school. And they do these things called Take Action projects, which is run by Mr. Redding. And essentially what he does is he just has students work on a project throughout the course of the year where they can take what they're learning in the environmental science class and institute it in like a hands-on project.
The Land Lab is full of, it's biodiverse, it's plants, and it's an area that animals that were used to be here and that were gone, return to. Anyone who knows Mr. Redding has taken any class with him knows about the Land Lab.
I love that. So as you come up, you're aware of this, and there's a legacy of that.
I think it has definitely had an influence on the community, but I still feel like not enough people know about it, which was one of the reasons we decided to make a documentary in the first place.
The interviews with the kids is really what got me, they're so passionate. And I was thinking, back in intermediate school, I didn't have any sort of passion like at all, like this, I was like most intermediate schoolers, often doing my own thing, focusing on whatever, and these kids are out there planting trees, knowing that in 30 years that's where their efforts are going to show and stay there.
That just really resonated with me, because I was like, oh, now I have this documentary that I can show people, and I'm like, I could have just stopped when COVID happened and we all got sent home. But then because Rod was being so supportive with helping me with gather the footage and edit it together, I was kind of oh, let's just keep doing this. I really like what we're doing. And then now it's getting picked up by USA Today and getting in the local paper, and cool to see how all of these things are going together. And now we're kind of getting to leave our mark too.